12th, I want to start off with a quick announcements. So the ladies who have been taking care of the green for the last 15 or 16 years have decided to retire. And we did put out a call on Facebook for anyone interested in spending a little time there and maybe getting to learn the maintenance routine and take over and have the next generation come in. If you could please contact my office at 679-2113 extension 17, and I can put you in touch with a couple of the ladies, and you can meet out there and review it and go over it. So, hope there are a couple of gardeners out there with green thumbs that might be willing to take us forward. So, with that, I will yield the floor to the tree committee for a short presentation.
An announcement.
I'm going to stand up here.
I'd like to start with an overview of the town trees. I'd like you to think about the legacy you all would like to leave. For those of you who have not memorized the zoning law in the tree section, currently the zoning law regulates larger trees on both sides of 212 from Bearsville to Clockland Lane and along 375. Trees are our aesthetic, historical, and visual tradition. All you have to do is to walk down to the current show at the Woodstock Historical Society and see that there's pictures of the town from the 1920s. But I brought you all some pictures on paper, because I'm a fan of paper, and I thought I'd print out a few and you could share them.
This paper comes from trees.
And I don't know how you share this with Reggie, if you're just going to hold it up the camera or whatever.
So Reggie's on Zoom?
If he is, I don't know if he
I
is.
don't think he told me he was going to zoom in, but I don't see him.
Anyway, this is a picture from the 1940s.
Richard Chapman showed me this picture.
Yeah, it's a wonderful photograph.
Oh no, maybe you brought it in a couple of. We sat down.
Well, it's one of the few ones that mostly there's paintings, but if you want to look at a photo, that's what you look at. And so you can see the town was once planted almost entirely with sugar maples. And planting one species is no longer considered prudent due to global warming, insects, and diseases. Towns all over the country are now planting diverse species to try to minimize the risk if any particular species gets hit with a new bug or whatever. And there are really too many studies to count that lead to the conclusion that tree-lined streets are not only pleasant, but increase revenue for the nearby commercial properties. You can do a search if you want to, and every state DEC and universities have all studied this and confirm it. So the tree committee has a goal now to make 212 and parts of 375 tree lined. We have a list of 27 sites that have both the space on the ground and are not under power lines. This project is obviously in line with the comprehensive plan and proposed housing changes and our historical tradition. And given our town's efforts to deal with global warming and decreased electric use, I think it's also part of that.
They may have
So
problems.
we met with the Chamber
Weather.
of Commerce, and they said to pass along this quote: "We are supportive of your committee's goals to provide more trees in our town, to provide shade, to protect our environment in our climate-changing world, as well as to beautify the experience for our locals and visitors." So the obvious question is, why now? First point is, we can get trees ordered for the fall and receive a discount if the order is over $1,000. Also, mini nurseries who we've spoken to recently on the phone are another one of these weird COVID things, running out of trees. So we would need to order trees in July for October if we want to do it. Now, meanwhile, a lot of our trees are dying or have recently died. Just to list Norway maples, there were 2 in the green that are both gone. There was 1 in front of Tinker Taco Lab. 1 was in the tree pit at the intersection of Rock City Road. 1 was at CVS. 1's on the Chamber property. 1 near Deming Street. And now 1, which you might have noticed recently, on the Laundromat property near the meat market, is on its way out. There's also 1 on the elementary school property that's in trouble, but it was recently pruned, so we'll see. But it seems like all the Norway maples are dying. Same thing with spruce trees. Narrow Street, one at the community center, 2 at Old Forge Road, and 1 or 2 at the bridge by the Fine Art, which probably the DOT will take out when they do their sidewalk thing. And then quite a number of our trees are the horrid Bradford pear. There's one in the Village Green, there's one from the Gene Turmos, there's several at the Playhouse property, at the meat market, etc. These trees are very fast growing and also fast dying trees. So we should pretty much plan on their demise. In addition to trees dying of more or less natural causes, trees have been inadvertently killed by construction and abuse. This happened at the site of the Mud Club in Early Terrible, also at 68 Tinker when they did construction, and the maple at the Playhouse that they had to take down. I actually went and photographed it before they took it down. It had 12 nails and screws within 1 square foot of the bark. Everybody's yard sale. So while the tree committee has planted about 10 trees in recent years, plus the 43 trees and shrubs at the Mountain View parking lot, planting 1 tree a year cannot keep up with the loss. You might notice now that the 3 maples at the base of Sled Hill are on their way out, as is the big maple in the western corner of the Playhouse property. So we've been going about with this idea of like, how can we make 212 and sections of 375 tree line, and talking to owners. And we have a list of owners who want trees, even though they know they have to water them regularly for the first year, which in the case of the Methodist Church, halfway toward Bearsville, which has 700 feet of frontage, no small deal, you have to get a 150-foot hose to water. Even our town hall has no tree in front of it, and they could. Meanwhile, we did meet with Lizzie Vann about the Bearsville complex, and she took our recommendations. We're planning this fall at her own expense to replace the trees that were inadvertently cut. The other answer to why now is that we have the money, either from the budget surplus or from the ARP money. Lots of cities, again, if you just do a quick search, you'll see them, lots of them doing extensive tree plantings. So the big picture is why now? Savings from buying in bulk, number of dying trees, and the simple fact that people want street trees. Now, some people may have an issue of planting on commercial properties, and you do that. And that's certainly one point of view. But
What do you mean an issue?
Feel that it's inappropriate to use tax dollars or town money.
Let me just clarify that.
Yeah.
It's not that I feel it's inappropriate, it's not legal.
Oh, okay, well, I'll show you a comparison with other towns. Here's the town of Woodstock, and can you all share?
Yeah.
I mean, only pretty a few.
So tell me, what's not legal?
You can't spend taxpayer money, town money, to benefit private property.
Yeah.
It's against the
To
Constitution.
benefit any private property.
Right. Now, there are ways around it.
Whether
though.
it's commercial or residential.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify.
Yeah, okay, thank you. If you take a look at this, you'll see comparison with other nearby towns that have, sort of similar population and their budgets. And you have to notice it's the village of these things, not the town. Like, it's not the town authorities, it's the village authorities. And every one of these towns budgets for tree planting. And they also do it by asking permission from private landowners. And if the person says no, too bad, you don't do it. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't want trees. But all these towns plant on private property with the owner's permission. I had a long conversation with the deputy mayor of Red Hook, who's been planting for 17 years. And he has a town with state roads going in both directions. He has to get a DOT permission. He says it's a one-page form. And he said, well, Woodstock is progressive, right? And I could barely tell him that we have no budget for tree planting. Meanwhile, we have been in touch with the DOT on their sidewalk plans and are compiling a list of tree pit locations. Said that their rule of thumb is if they need to cut a tree, they'll plant another. I asked about species. They said, we don't know yet. There'll be a landscaping company in charge of that later. Um, So I was picturing planting 10 to 12 trees this fall, the same next fall, and then see what's needed after the DOT finishes their sidewalk thing. Spacing the planting over several years is also good risk management in case you have a drought summer. Because even when you're watering and even if you're planting a wall, the first year a tree needs more attention than any other time. So the issue of right-of-way has been an issue. And I got another really cool piece of paper from 1971, when the tree committee of that period was trying to figure out how to handle right-of-way. And I'd say, you know, it's been 60 years, it's time to plant where people will take trees. So we need support in terms of money. It would also be nice if the fire department could help us watering in some cases. It'd be great if there was an information campaign to make commercial owners know about the tree law. And you know, I feel like you all did a terrific job persisting with the DOT, which I'm sure it took persistence. But I'd also like to
Years.
persist with extensive tree planting and not just like one tree at a time. The tree committee has had a positive record with lots of owners. You know, I brought along different owners that all said thank you very much, and some this is from the guild and from different private property owners. And actually, we have yet to plant a tree on anybody else's property where they weren't grateful. So the tree committee could go along just raising money and planting one expensive tree a year.
What's an expensive tree?
I'll give you an example. We planted a tulip tree on the property in front of, that's owned by the guy who has the Tinker Taco place, right? That tree came from Adams and they gave a 10% discount, but it was still $425. If we bought from, in bulk, like 10 trees at a time from Story's Nursery, which is up toward Albany, we could actually get 10 trees planted for $2,000.
$200.
Yeah, that's
Variety of
planted.
Variety of species.
That's, yeah, and they have everything there, which is an asset, because Adams and Augustine's and some of the local nurseries, you know, they have a lot of maples. We have too many maples, we have too many dying maples, so we want to plant, you know, the new variation of the American elm and tulip trees and oak trees and other species entirely.
So if I can ask, the 10 trees for $2,000, that's that same variety you just mentioned?
You could get, well, I'm averaging it. Some trees are $78, some are $105, you know,
Right.
so I'm averaging it.
But if that's a 200 in bulk, it's a good average.
Yeah, it's a good
Say
average,
300.
yeah.
Well, it's a good,
And they have two different types of American elms and linden trees. They really have almost everything in a wish list would want. But you have to order in advance and plan in advance because of the shortage and because they need to do their own booking. We're talking about planting in the fall. Best time to plant trees is always the fall. So they do a discounted price for any planting with orders over 1,000. This also is a picture of, it's kind of fun to see, Woodstock, the area that you all know. You've seen this before, though.
Yeah.
And, you know, you all need to share a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, these are from Google History. So you can see how, even since 2008, which was the earlier photo, and that's 2008. Let me grab this document from the back. And this is now. So that's the idea. I'd like the town to consider budgeting about $6,000 to be spent over 3 years, which would plant 30 trees. And we probably need a little more money for mulch, and we're going to continue to do the Tree City grant and all that sort of thing. We might need some of those, you ever see those green bags at the base of the tree for watering? They hold 20 gallons. Sometimes,
What does a tree need every time you water it?
Well, the best way to water a young tree that's been transplanted is very heavily, like once a week, but don't sprinkle.
Well,
you
what's
know.
that, like 20 gallons,
Like
50
20
gallons?
gallons, yeah, but those things are kind of cool because they're timed and they'll release it slowly. You'll see them in lots of towns, and most recently in Saugerties, where they did a whole new planting and they used those bags because a lot of the commercial owners basically said, I don't feel like carrying a bucket out there, you know, and they didn't have a hose. And so that depends on the response of the particular properties, whether we need those or not. And I don't know if the art money needs to be spent at a certain time. I had suggested 10 trees 3 years in a row to space it out, but if we needed to, we could break it up differently. And I also want to have the town support the tree law by doing a mailing to commercial owners. I got in touch with the assessor's office today, and they can pull out a list of the up and down 212, all the commercial owners. So we can send them a letter saying, here's the tree law, this is what we're planning, you know, just information, like an education thing. And it would have taken us forever to do Ulster County Parcel Viewer and look up each individual thing and find the owner and write them a letter. So that's really great, they can help out. And I know later tonight you're going to be voting on transferring some funds.
No, we're not.
You're not?
That's
Okay.
just on there.
That's just on there.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I
discussion.
saw it. Anyway, I don't know where you find $6,000, whether you want to find it from the excess that's,
Well, we only budget year to year.
yeah, or whether you want to do it with art funds, or whether we can do this, should you all choose to do this, for this fall. But I would really like to see, you know, like they have that expression in zoning, built out, like when everything is built. I like to see 212 planted out, like from one end to the other, and there'll be a few people that will say no, and nothing to do with that. But planting one tree at a time, we're falling way behind. Trees are dying so much faster than we're able to keep up with. So I'm hoping you all would budget some
Well, I
money.
suspect there's probably $2,000 in the trust and agency right now, or in a couple of different trust and agencies.
Okay.
You know, the art funds have been used in communities across the country for tree planting
Yes,
and tree maintenance. And
I did
And-
do a little search on that, and
and
lots of cities have used the money.
the
Bigger
IRS, the
cities.
Treasury's guidelines, excuse me,
Yeah.
the IRS, the Treasury's guidelines have said that it's perfectly
Yeah.
within the boundaries to use art funds for
Yes.
this type of.
Yeah, because it
is-
is. an
Actually, I've
infrastructure.
seen the opposite, but I'd be interested if you have that. Just-
I actually looked just for a
But,
quick search.
but there is a way to do it where we can claim it as lost revenue.
Okay, I don't know the details of the art thing.
Yeah,
I just know that the
I'm
city of
absolutely
Syracuse,
unaware.
big cities like the
I'm
city of
absolutely unaware of any
Syracuse and
any
Minneapolis
guidelines that have said
have done it.
you cannot use these funds for
There's
trees.
They have-
There's also the
One-
aspect
one
of
at a time.
the health benefits of urban trees. And I'm researching that right now. I just sent everybody an email regarding that. The art funds are very clear that they can be used for health improving activities and
I'm just gonna assume that the city of Syracuse and the city of Minneapolis didn't get busted for spending money on trees.
No, but again, if they did it with the lost revenue, that's a way to
Yeah.
possibly do
We
it.
can always find out what they do. I mean, the nice thing about this is you call people up and want to talk about trees, they want to talk to you.
They don't, or they do?
They do.
In
Yeah.
addition, the money does not have to be spent until, it needs to be allocated by 2024, and it doesn't need to be spent until 2026.
Well,
And-
that would give us a window to do 3 sets of tents.
Actually, they may have extended that to 7, but at least 6.
Okay. Anyway, this week we're meeting with the elementary school. I don't know if you've noticed, but a whole bunch of the trees that are right along 375 there are not doing well. And the idea is not just to plant a few trees, but to kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit. So like the Playhouse has that dying maple on the west side of their property. Plant something now. 3 years from now, they're going to need to take it down. You know, get ahead, don't wait until there's another hole in the landscape.
So I have a couple questions.
Any questions? Yeah.
Okay, yes, so the questions I have, so first off, so are you looking for 2,000 a year because that's what you think you can get the 10 trees from the place up near Albany?
Yes,
So, okay, so then who is gonna take out the dying trees? Before you plant a tree, sometimes you have to take out a tree.
yes, that's still up to the individual property owners, like this,
Okay.
the spruce tree that was dead in Narrow Street for a long time, I mean, standing dead with bark, really not safe.
Right.
It took the owner a good while to get to it, but they did, and the same thing, the playhouse, people had to take down that big maple, with all the
Right.
nails in it, cost them $1,000.
Well, sure, yeah,
Yeah, but it was really big tree.
Yeah, a big tree, yeah.
Yeah, and the sort of the irony of this is that we're asking people to plant a tree, then we're saying, please water it for the first year,
Sure.
and then we're saying, and it's your liability,
Right.
over time.
Yeah.
They have to take care of it. Now, if we had more money, it would be nice to do more pruning and, pay a tree company for that. But I haven't prepped for that. I mean, I know like 5 different companies, I would get bids from everyone.
Would it be prudent to put money in for maintenance and watering of these trees? Because you're putting forward a large number of new trees that are going to require weekly
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, well, for example, with the Methodist Church, we met with them. They're all excited because they used to have a row of ash trees. Guess what? They're gone. They spoke to whoever their maintenance person is, and said, would you be willing to haul a hose? And they said, yeah, sure.
Good.
Yeah. And, some owners would be a little more willing than others, but they have 700 feet of frontage. And if you actually walk there, you can see all the dead stumps from the
Right.
old trees.
So back to your point.
Any questions?
Yeah, so back to your point about, so town money can't go to private or commercial
But
property.
there are other alternatives.
So what you're talking about is, so these alternatives we're talking about here.
Art money would not be included.
Was that?
Art money would not be included in the town funds, in taxpayer dollars. It is taxpayer from Washington, but
Okay, well, so I guess that's what I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together. And
those
and
can be used for private ventures.
Those, ARP money?
Yeah,
Okay,
And as I pointed out, all these other towns plant with permission on private property. Rhinebeck, it's already, obviously a town the size of
no,
Glacier
it would be a
doesn't
law
have trees.
breaker, do you?
No, actually I do. I want to be, I want
She wants us to bring them.
Woodstock to have, like, we have sort of this reputation of progressive and all this stuff, but we don't,
but do we have
Take
any
care of the
purview, I mean, there's a street, which of course 212 is New York State, DOT.
yeah.
But isn't there some purview some feet away from the street?
Yeah,
Governmental
well, the
purview?
tree law says 20 feet from the pavement is, quote, regulated of trees of a certain diameter, you say 8
Sure,
inches.
but might that be our purview to be able to spend money to plant if it's some number of feet from the street?
It's not our road though,
Okay,
Yeah,
212.
right.
no, but it
right.
is regulated.
Well, neither is 375.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, neither of them are.
Okay.
there are ways to do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Anyway, that's
Thank you,
the
Gary.
plan. I'd love to see tree lined
Do you,
streets. And any
you have
questions?
a list of the 10 trees that we would plant this year?
Um,
Do we have
Well-
10 locations?
Or where?
yeah, we do have 10 locations.
Where are they?
We have the Methodist Church, which, as I said, 700 feet of frontage, so it'd be like
So there's a couple.
5 trees, actually, which includes the parish building.
Yes,
And as I said, the elementary school is interested, Golden Notebook's
so
interested.
the elementary school could be 2 or 3,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
that's 8.
yeah.
There's
And
there's a tree city grant that's gonna be on your desk hopefully tomorrow, for your signature for 3 trees.
We're gonna get it this year,
at
right?
the- We'll get it,
yeah,
Gene Zimmerman promised me we'll get it.
yeah.
We're trying to do the 3 trees at the elementary school.
And also, I think it would be
It's a
symbolic.
$1,000 grant.
Right, it would also be symbolically delightful to put one in front of the town hall. There's a big lawn, there
That
are no
one we can
trees.
actually spend money on.
We can actually do all of them, yeah.
But I mean, that we could spend taxpayer
Taxpayers' money,
funds.
yeah. And when you start to really look, if you want, I could share email the list of the 27 sites
So yeah, send that to me.
that are away from the, make a note.
Send that to me, but
Away from the power lines.
send me the 10 that we would do this fall.
Okay, and this fall.
Okay. Thank you, Gag.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
You're very welcome. So I only have I've got a half dozen resolutions on here, but as I said, I'm not offering one with regard to fund balance or the capital projects or transfers. So if you guys will take a look at that over the next week or so, if you have thoughts, recommendations, feedback, questions, let me know.
I would like to hear from some of the, like, for instance, I'd love to hear from the highway superintendent about their plans for use. I'd like to hear from the center, what their plans for improvements would be. I think that it would be good to have all of these people come forward and, I mean, just as the tree committee just did, and explain what their proposals are. I'd like to hear from certain individuals in the town government, specifically what their actual plans would be for these funds. I mean,
Well, I can tell you, Scott has basically three ideas for his funding. We're gonna be purchasing a street sweeper, which will cost $325,000 approximately at purchase.
lot of trees. Sorry.
I'd like to hear from the highway superintendent and
So you're asking me to invite him here next Tuesday?
I mean, I'll invite him here if you want me to.
No,
I mean,
I'm
I
asking you want him in a meeting.
I absolutely would love to hear
Okay.
from the highway superintendent. I'd like to hear from the head of the center and
Well,
recreation.
that's not from him, that's my proposal, so I can discuss that.
No, I'd like to hear from the youth center person. I think
He
that,
doesn't know anything about it. This is a capital project to replace or refurbish the building. You can go talk to him, but this is not his initiative, it's my initiative. And it's whether the board wants to go forward with it or not is the board's decision. You know, if you wanna get Boney in here, that's fine, but Patrick, he wouldn't know what to tell you.
Hasn't he been working for a number of years and knows, what areas need improvement or?
Doubtful. Go talk to him.
I mean, I'm stunned that you would say that one of our employees has no idea.
This is my initiative, not his. I'm happy to discuss the
It
initiative.
stuns me even more that you haven't discussed it with him.
Okay. Anyone else you'd like me to bring in?
I certainly would like to see what the sewer plant generator replacement capital would be used for, and
So that would be used, the generator there is going on about 40 years old and is a little hit or miss. We can't afford to be without that. So the idea is to put money aside. That, it'll be 2 to 3 years before we use the money.
I still think it's a better idea to talk to the people who are actually going to be the recipients of the funding, rather than to just see a piece of equipment or a capital project.
Larry can come in and talk about the generator if you'd like.
Well, I mean, look, the lighting fund, the water fund, the sewer fund, the on-site fund, the highway, the youth center, which includes the tennis court, the building capital reserve. I mean, all of these things, the Church Street, Church Road remediation capital, I really don't understand why we're putting $200,000 into a capital fund when that's an ongoing, discussion with both the neighbor.
And if that actually, if they follow through and clean that up, then we'll transfer that money somewhere else.
But the money can only be then transferred to capital. I would want to
No,
put it.
it can go back to the unassigned balance and then to a new capital.
I wouldn't want to put it into something that we may not use it for. I don't think that that's prudent. I don't think it's.
Well,
good
I
use of
would
the
disagree.
taxpayer money.
Again, one, if we do use that money, we're gonna get it back in tax collection from the property owner. And two, if we don't use the money, and hopefully we don't have to, that money will go back into the fund balance and then can be reassigned to any other project, including planting trees.
I'm not sure that $200,000 back from the property owner is going to be something that happens. I just don't, I don't understand that.
Oh, it will happen because the county will pay it back.
So it's not the property owner.
They will bill it back to the property owner
In taxes.
in taxes, re-levy it.
And the property owner isn't going to be able to pay $200,000.
They'll foreclose and sell the property. I hope to God he comes through with a plan. He sent me a partial plan and I sent it back and said, this is not acceptable. We need to have a full plan. Listen, if you don't want to fund it, but if he balks and then we don't have the money to clean it up, I know the property owner is not going to be too happy. But I'm only one vote. These are my recommendations. And again, these are not up for a vote tonight. Expect to have spirited discussion.
We'll have an opportunity as well to look at some other areas that we also feel passionate
This is
about.
where I think it should go. You can make any recommendations. I would also, you can talk to Marge Gallagher. She and I have had lengthy discussions about fund balance. She'd be a good source if you wanted some information on fund balance and how it can be used.
Well, you know, one thing in particular that I'd like for us to look at is buying a dishwasher for the community center for that Office for the Aging Senior Lunch Program. So I'd like for that to be a consideration, as well as some other items that I think, you know, and we have to discuss ARP funds too.
Mhm.
We've got the home share
Well,
program.
that's a
I
separate.
know it's separate, but I think it's very important that we talk about this.
Actually, I've engaged in a conversation with Dennis, or town engineer, to come up with pricing to follow through on the housing committee's recommendation to get site ready, builds ready.
Okay,
So.
so we've got that initiative, but we also have the home share program, which we're just kicking off. But so far, we've only received a little bit of funding from Office for the Aging, the state department. So we
They've been less
definitely,
specific about how the funds would be used there.
I think she has something. Susan Goldman will provide something.
Okay,
We
I haven't
definitely-
seen it.
Yeah, no, there's a whole budget put together and everything, so.
I mean, with all due respect, there's no necessity for specificity in some of these ARP funds. $50,000 went to family of Woodstock without a single specificity whatsoever. There was never a question about exactly how each particular dollar was going to be spent.
No, but what it was going to be spent for, we know that the family of Woodstock was going to put it for drug and alcohol rehabilitation, and I forget if it was it wasn't homelessness. I forget what the other,
So what was
but
it? So-
specific programs.
So family, what, the fire department, didn't they receive
They
ARP,
received,
right?
yeah.
And then what was the other one?
Uh,
The other one that
Town
received-
bonuses, the
And the town
employee
bonuses.
bonuses.
But not everybody had to come and say, here's what we're, using the money for.
No,
So-
they told us what they were going to use the money for.
They
We
did,
just
okay.
didn't hand it over and
Okay.
say, do whatever you want.
So the housing committee has come twice, right? They've come already with their
And
plans.
I'm working on their proposal. They had 3 proposals.
Okay. So then all you need from home share is just a budget, is that correct?
And what they're gonna spend it on,
Right.
specific,
Right. Mhm.
somewhat specific.
So you might not have seen specificity in the resolution, but what Bill's saying is there was definitely whatever the word is.
The word is, yes.
It definitely had the
Sure.
specifics before he put the resolution on the agenda, to understand what was being done. And family certainly has a reputation for helping people that need
Oh,
help.
no, of course, that's
So-
great.
Well, do you need any more specificity than what the tree committee just said? I mean, we all just had that discussion right now. We could spend $6,000 or $10,000 of ARP funds immediately, right now, for the tree committee to fund those programs. We've just heard the specificity, and we're all here.
But let me do a little research on that, and that's an option.
I mean, environmental remediation is one of the actual points that the says you should use the ARP funds for. And you yourself have said that there is another option as well. And I think that it's high time that we spend some of that ARP funding. I'd be in favor of putting $10,000 right now. I move that we do that.
Well, Bill, you said you want to do a little research and thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna make sure that it's legal and that what the legal path would be.
Well, I mean, if it's legal.
Well, I think that so this is the first meeting of July, right? We have another meeting in a week. So can we give Bill the week to be thinking through what he wants to think through?
You want time to look at my proposals, and now all of a sudden you want me to vote on a proposal tonight that was just made.
The ARP funds have been here. In fact, a second tranche of the ARP funds are coming. This is money that's just languishing. We have both an environmental crisis and a housing
Or the
crisis.
housing crisis, yeah.
And these funds could go immediately.
Well, we definitely have the affordable housing, and
We have an environmental crisis too.
my statement last year when we got this money is that I would be in favor of spending it all on affordable housing. So,
But you haven't, and we should be doing it. And I think we should be doing it soon.
on what, Bennett?
Soon. As soon as.
I would
soon.
spend $50,000 on the home share program to get it up and running. I would spend $10,000
Put
on
that on the
that.
next
I'd
agenda?
spend it all to put infrastructure into the Xena projects to build 40 homes out there.
No, I would do short-term solutions for an immediate crisis. Building homes is
Solves a long-term problem,
Well,
building homes is a longer-term solution.
but it's a good
But
investment.
housing is a crisis also.
Yeah.
Housing is a crisis, so the Xena building project can help the housing crisis.
It is not a short-term solution to an immediate crisis.
Well, the housing is an immediate crisis, if you talk to people
There
in
is no-
town.
It is an immediate crisis, but it is not a short-term solution.
The home share program, what makes it so attractive is that these homes already exist, and it not only helps people to be able to afford to
Tell
live
us how the
here,
money's gonna get
but
spent.
the other point that I'm trying to make is that we've got an aging population. So our seniors, if they want to age in place, and they want to age in place safely, and at the same time welcome in people or welcome back people to be able to afford to live here. These homes already exist, so it's an immediate, you know.
Maria-Elena, you and I have talked about this before, and I've been totally supportive of the home share. I think it's great. I mean, we've talked about Reggie for ages. Tell me how's the money gonna be spent?
That's
Bring it in.
the entire point is
We're
that
ready for that. Yeah.
this has been,
Good.
We're
Bring it.
ready. No,
Okay,
absolutely,
good. So
absolutely.
next week? You'll have, next week?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
absolutely do that.
Okay.
Thank you, that's great.
Excellent. So let's continue this conversation. As the week goes by, if we have more thoughts on how funds might get spent, let's discuss it. In the meantime, I'll offer a couple of resolutions. Be it resolved to authorize the supervisor to sign the Fourth Amendment to the Tower Space Land Lease Agreement between the Town of Woodstock and New Singular Wireless PCS LLC. This went through the planning process, it got planning approval. I'm told that it's for 4G. Any questions? You all got a copy of the lease?
Well, I do have questions. And I'll second it for purpose of discussion.
Okay.
If that's okay. So that's the tower that exists where?
That is our tower at California Quarry.
Okay, and so even though I did skim through it, I guess I still wasn't putting
Mhm.
all the, connecting all the dots. So connect all the dots. So they want to do something different to that tower?
So what they want to, there's no change in the monetary amount, the money we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing is they're taking, I don't know the exact number, but they're taking out, say, 6 antenna and they're replacing it with 6 antennas.
Same
So-
size, same visibility, no change to aesthetic view.
That went all through the planning board. I don't know if
Okay.
they're a little bigger, a little smaller. The planning board made sure that it was
Yeah,
all
approved one, so it's
camouflaged.
approved by the.
It was all approved by the planning board. Aesthetically, it was approved by the planning board.
Do we know what the equipment is? What, do we know what
Their antenna,
their antenna?
yes. So that they rent lease a space on the tower at a certain level,
Mhm.
and they have their antenna, and the different antenna are pointed in different directions. This is the third time I think they've changed out. You know, the equipment only lasts 5 or 6 years, and then they have to put new antenna up. And actually, all 3 of the carriers that are up there are doing this presently.
Did I also read that the Fourth Amendment corrects an error which referred to Crown Communications as the leasor?
Yes, yeah,
When in fact, we are the leasor
Yeah.
and they are
Right.
just the.
yes.
Okay.
Crown Castle makes that mistake every time we talk. So,
Mhm.
all right,
Okay.
any other questions?
Good.
Good?
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Do
right.
we hear?
Be it resolved to adopt the 2022 salary list for the summer recreation department per the attached sheet.
I'll second for purpose of a quick discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it should be clarified, because the director has, the column header is hourly, and that's probably a season.
She's for the season, the rest are hourly, yes.
Correct, well, so
Yes.
can
Yes.
the record show that the
Let the-
director is a seasonal number, because otherwise she's getting $6,000 an hour.
You don't think she's worth it? So amend the resolution to reflect that first salary is the seasonal salary, and the rest are hourly.
I'd like to point out that I won't participate in the discussion or vote because one of my children is working as a counselor.
Oh,
They're
cool.
having a good experience.
They are quite enjoying their work.
Excellent.
Cool.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved to adopt the attached violation appearance ticket for use by the town of Woodstock Building Department. So they had a ticket, they've upgraded it. Actually, do you want a second?
I second it.
I was just gonna ask a quick question. Go
Sure.
ahead, sorry.
Yeah, for purpose of
No, you
discussion.
go ahead then.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the other ticket was. I mean, what are the changes that have been made here? I
I don't
looked at
have
this.
it, I don't have it in front of me. If you want to wait till next week on this, we can, unless Ashley, you don't have it on a computer that you can email it?
I believe I already sent them both, the old one and the new one. I'll double check. If not, I will send that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I only have the new one and I did not.
So Ashley, let's put this back on the agenda for next week, and we can just make sure we get that out.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe that's it for tonight. So I am going to make a motion to go into executive session.
I do have one reminder.
Okay.
Okay, for the town board, so the Housing Oversight Task Force, as we know, has been collecting people's input. And so as a reminder to the town board, I've sent an email with my own, with a piece of input. I'm not sure if anybody else has, but I believe the chairs, Deborah and Kirk, will be here a week from today. So any town board member with input, please send it to the ID by Monday, so that they can be, because they're gonna come give a status. That we had a great meeting this morning talking about what feedback has been received so far. And so it's good to have the town board included in the feedback, because we want to move forward. And then the other thing that I will say is, where everybody's been waiting with bated breath on the telecommunications law, and before this meeting next week, I know since everybody's still looking at the housing law now, before this meeting next week, I will have the updated law, because I have talked with
From
Andrew
Andrew.
Campanelli
Okay.
and gotten some agreement on how to correct a few things. And I will be updating to get some things corrected, and so hopefully then we'll decide, when everybody gets that law, how long will it take before we can forward it on to the planning board, et cetera, et cetera. but I will be, before next week's meeting, I'll be getting the updated telecommunications law to the board.
Excellent, okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session to meet with the president of the library board to discuss ongoing litigation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're not gonna be making any,
Is this litigation that is being brought against the town or town against somebody else?
against the library and the town's names,
And
but
The town board
it's
is also on,
It's an existing case.
Yes.
yes, yeah.
So who is the other side?
Jeff?
Hero,
Hero?
Hero, H-E-R-A, Hero.
So I'm gonna shut down the computer. Thanks, Ashley.
Good night, thank you.
good night.
Bill, I did have Linda for public be heard. Are we not doing that tonight?
Oh, probably heard.
Oh, you know, we're already, oh,
There
tell
she
her we'll get her next week.
Okay.
Sorry, Linda.
No problem.
So, what was the outcome on the trees? Did you decide to go ahead and get the
Oh,
trees?
yeah, we got money somewhere. I mean, we've got,
Was there a vote?
no, but there's money. I'm sure one way or another, a funds can be used. I'm also, I believe that we have over $2,000 in a trust and agency donations that were given for plantings. So there's money to be had.
Okay, but I didn't.
No
believe
decision was
this
taken.
No, we didn't actually take a vote. I think we all agreed it's a consensus thing. I don't know, is we need a vote to spend that money, or
No,
do we need a vote?
No, what I'm saying is,
You didn't miss a
the
vote.
conversation ended and I didn't hear.
Well, I think everybody agreed
Does that work?
Can I,
Oh,
can I
there you
go
go.
away?
I guess they don't need you. I guess they don't need you for executive session.
No, no, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.